Nifty heavyweights. One of them is Maruti. At the low point of trade from the highs, it's seen a cut of almost 1%. But the total sales in October for the company grew 19% on a year-on-year basis. The company fared better than the overall industry, and this comes on the back of a decent third quarter showing as well. We have Shashank Srivastava, the Senior Executive Officer, Marketing and Sales at Maruti Suzuki. Thanks a lot, Mr. Srivastava, for joining in. Wholesales up 19% year-on-year at almost 2 lakh units. What was the growth in retail this month? That will give us a sense of what the festive season is likely to be.
Yes, so I think there is a little bit of difference between the wholesale and the retail. The wholesale growth in the industry, as you rightly mentioned, 16.3%, 391,400 against last year's of 336,700. Pretty good growth. And of course, Maruti grew faster than the industry, and that's why our market share went up by 1.3%. To 43%. That's on the wholesale side. On the retail side, though, the retail has been slightly less than the wholesale, about 388,000 in the industry. And the growth is also because last year number was 367,000. The growth in retail is 5.8%. Maruti Suzuki's growth in retail is about 9%, 162,000 versus 151,000 of last year. So there seems to be a little difference, and the 5,000 units have been added to the industry stock. Industry stock now stands at around 335,000. But yes, there has been a good growth during the festive season. Around 16 to 18% is the estimate.
All right, fair enough. The mini plus the compact car segment is still under pressure, especially the mini segment. Are you seeing any recovery in the small car segment, sir?
One of the reasons why, the quarter two and the beginning of quarter three, that is October, has been very good for the industry and also specifically for Maruti Suzuki, has been that the semiconductor crisis seems to have blown over, and the result that we are able to produce many more vehicles that were in large demand for which we had a huge pending orders. And that was across the industry, across all OEMs. Therefore, one big reason for this jump is the ability of the industry to produce vehicles as per the underlying demand. Second, of course, is that this season has been good in terms of retails also because of the festive season. And actually, the real picture will emerge after the 15th of November when the festive season gets over. So I think we'll have to wait and watch to see whether the same trends will continue going forward after the festive season. But these two main reasons why we saw a huge jump in quarter two and the beginning of quarter three, largely because of the availability of vehicles as per the demand pattern.
All right, sure. I was asking specifically on the small and the mini car segment. Is there any pickup in the lower end of the market?
Yes, so that was the other part of the question, which is actually there is it's rather flat because it's still around 30% of the overall market, the small car segment. It was dropping over the last few months, so that drop seems to have stopped. But I must tell you that when you talk of mini segment, you just have three vehicles there, which is the Espresso, Alto, and the Kwid from Renault. And it could be misleading because Alto 800 has been discontinued. That was a substantial part last year, about 12,000 units a month. And therefore, once that went away because of the to the RD norms, the new regime of emission, and therefore a comparison may be a little bit maybe a little bit misleading. I would say it has stabilized. And going forward, in fact, my expectation is that you could see a bounce back in the small car segment as well.
All right, one could see the bounce back. We'll talk about the urban versus rural split in just a bit, Mr. Srivastava. But just, getting the export business out of the way first. Shipment numbers have risen 7.5% to almost 22,000 units. What's the outlook for the rest of the year?
So exports, of course, what you see here is the shipment numbers. The shipment, of course, it depends, if there is a couple of ships that you missed toward the end of the month, the numbers are reflected in the next month. Like we missed in the last few months, some ships at the end of the month. This time, it has helped us because we are able to ship all the vehicles. Therefore, you are showing that growth 22,000 almost against 20,500 of last year. And as a result, if April to October we are showing a growth in exports. 154,500 against 153,000 of last year. Remember, last year was a very high export. In fact, the highest ever that Maruti Suzuki had exported, 259,000. And we are hopeful, going by the trend and the retails in the export market, that we should be able to exceed last year's numbers.
All right, now back to the rural versus urban split. You said that you are likely to see some pickup in the mini and small car sales, as Ekta asked you, but where are you seeing maximum traction in this festive season? Is it rural, urban? We're trying to find out whether there is any recovery yet or no.
So the rural, if you look at the current financial year, April to October figures, rural growth is actually slightly higher than urban growth, 11.1% against 8.3% for the urban markets. Overall growth of around 9.6%. So rural has actually held on quite well. We have to see, though, because we have to see how the Kharif production pans out. There are news that the production might be affected, even though the Kharif sowing was, larger than the previous year. We also have to see how is the Rabi sowing season goes from here onwards. Because if it does not go well, it can affect the rural sentiment. Roughly for Maruti Suzuki, the rural market penetration is about 44%, 44.3%. Generally in the industry, it is estimated to be around the 30-31% mark. So it has held well. We need to see, however, how the Kharif production and the Rabi sowing goes, because that can impact the inflation, the food inflation later on if it doesn't go well. And that can actually affect the interest rates and ultimately may affect even the urban buying.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Now the SUV growth, that's been very good, and your MPV segment, which is your multi-purpose vehicle segment, has also increased. So what's the exact market share now in the SUV segment, and what kind of growth are you envisaging there?
So SUV share has been going. In fact, the MUV share also has been going up, which means the MPV segment also has gone up to around 9% and SUV share about 50%. Last year it was about 43% was the SUV and about 7.5-8% was MPV. So that B segment share, which is the MUV, which was last year 50-51%, has gone up to almost 60% this year. That's a big change as far as trend goes. But of course, going forward, we are expecting it to sort of play to around this number. In fact, October was slightly less than SUV share was slightly less than the September SUV share. But I think it would play to at this high number, and hopefully, what we are going to see obviously is the change in the powertrain trends. As you can see, the hybrids have increased their share 1.9% against the cumulative 1.7% so far. There's a slight dip in the EV percentage share from 2.4% to 2.2%, and diesel dipping down. And that, I think, is a very interesting trend to watch out for.
All right. And the EV trend, I mean, that's interesting. You said it's fallen. Do you think the growth slowdown in EVs will continue?
Yeah, so essentially, I think there would have been an initial buying for EVs for a lot of consumers. But then if you want to have a regular demand, then you need to get fresh customers. They are getting fresh customers. EVs are growing, but not at the pace at which the industry did grow. And, it could be very well because of this last few months. We have seen the festive season, and festive season generally has a lot of sales coming through from the smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities where the growth is high. There probably the penetration of EV may not be there. And of course, we have been able to increase the production of hybrid vehicles, the Vitara and the Invicto. And that is why probably the hybrid share is going up.
Okay, all right, Mr. Srivastava, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us. So that is the management of Maruti. We need to take a short break, but on the other